Yeah, so we'll start. So we are, this week, we have a joint Sedra, finishing the third of the Chumoshim, Sefer VAYIKRA, and the two last Sedras are often joined together, as they are this year. BEHAR is the first one and BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI is the second one. We're going to be learning from the second one, and in order to let me first read you how it starts. I'll use the English, but just the first opening words say in Hebrew because you'll see it's necessary. In BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI telechu, if in my laws, in my statutes you'll go, and my mitzvahs tishomru you'll keep, then I'm going to give you all the good things: food, rain in the proper season, food, animals be fed, you'll be free of sickness, all good Gashmias things. And we have a problem because, and the problem has many faces to it, like a diamond. One face to the problem is you and I know people in the world who do exactly this, that they keep Hashem's laws, and they go in His way, keep the mitzvahs, and they don't have a good life. They have a terrible life. I mean, you know people who are shockingly poor, or sick, or don't have nachas from their children, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, and they keep everything so scrupulously. So the first question is, what sort of a promise is this? And don't forget who the promise is from. It's from God, so it's got to be right. So there's a question of what does it mean that if you go in my decrees and observe all my commandments and perform them, then I'll provide your rains in their time, and the land will produce, and the tree of the field will give its fruit, and I'll provide peace in the land, and you'll lie down with none to frighten you, and I'll cause you wild beasts to withdraw from you. Everything good. But we know that there are people who live saintly lives, and they don't have this set of good brachas. That's one question. We need to explain that, to go to that. Second thing is this, that if Hashem is going to give you and me rewards, what sort of rewards would you expect? Wouldn't you expect spiritual rewards? Gan Eden, that Hashem says to you, you keep the mitzvahs, you keep my laws, I'm going to promise you Olam Haba, Gan Eden, at least these. Sorry, is this going? I think it's going. I put the paper over it. I'm sure it'll still hear. At least these Arabs have some story about if they behave, then they get 72 virgins or whatever it is in Olam Haba. That's not what Hashem's promising us. Hashem's promising us money, good health, nachas from children, all the good physical brachas on this earth. That the ground will grow well, our produce will grow well, we won't be hungry, we won't be thirsty. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what sort of what sort of a promise is this for us? Yidden are supposed to live spiritual lives to some level, and to that, so you would expect your reward to be a spiritual reward, not toys. Because at the end of the day, what's Hashem offering everybody? Is apparently what it seems to be being offered is lollies, gashmias. And it's very puzzling because we have a Mishnah which says that 1 year of bliss bliss, I don't know how to translate bliss, joyous pleasure in Olam Haba is 100 years of bliss in Gashmias. So 1 year of Olam Haba versus 100 years in Gashmias, you'd expect Hashem to offer us as the reward whatever it is that the bliss would be in Olam Haba. Why are we getting it here? And why is that an ultimate reward? And then we have another midrash which says that, because later on it says that the fruit will grow immediately, and the commentators explain, what does this mean? It means that when Hashem smiles on us, the result will be immediate, not like now. Like now, you want bread, you got to plant the wheat and sow the wheat and water it and blah, 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 and it takes X months to do it, and then you have to prepare it and winnow it and whatever it is, and finally you get your bread. Sure, it's a bracha to have your bread. That's why we say hamoisi lechem menorah. It's before we eat the bread, and we praise Hashem for the miracle of getting bread out of the ground. Which, if you think about it, how can you get bread out of the ground? But it takes a long time and a lot of effort. Whereas we learn that in Gan Eden, when Hashem first formed the world, Adam Rishon, before he ate from the pre-Eitz Hadas, everything was immediate. When Hava conceived, the birth would be immediate. If an animal conceived, the birth was immediate. If you needed food, the tree, you planted a tree, the whole thing grew in one instant, and not only was the fruit instantaneous, but you could even eat the bark. You could even eat the bark of the tree. And we have a Rambam which says that, and let's understand, we would assume that what Hashem is saying in this Sidra is that if you live 100% properly, what happens when we live 100% properly? We have Mashiach. So when Mashiach comes, Rambam paskins that the world will be full of the knowledge of God, and people won't want any of the toys. Why would you want the toy? If you have a Giloi Elokus, if you have an obvious revelation of godliness, you see God, talk to God, walk with God, what do you want a Ferrari for? I mean, or an electric bike for? Whatever it is that why? Why would you want that if you have a Giloi Elokus, you living, seeing godliness? You know, when they had the Beis HaMikdash, in the first Beis HaMikdash, the Pirkei Avos, the Mishnah says there were 10 open miracles. Anyone who went into the Beis HaMikdash witnessed 10 open miracles, 24 hours a day. You know, like those movies that go to the end and then start all over again. The miracles were there all day, all night, for every Jew to see and feel, and so a Jew had absolute evidence of godliness in the Beis HaMikdash, and that wasn't when Mashiach comes. That was then. So if the world's going to be full of, if, as Rambam says it, and we learn like the Rambam says, that the world will be full of the knowledge of God. So what? Really? We're going to be getting toys? We're going to be getting a good fillet steak? That's the key thing, that you'll excrete in an hour. You take the fillet steak and you digest it, and you excrete it in an hour, and that's the reason for living. So there's a line of explanation that goes like this. It says, okay, so the reason for this is that not every Jew can appreciate the higher levels of spirituality. So you have to take the lowest common denominator, and you have to deal with something that all Jews can understand. All Jews can understand a fillet steak. Not all Jews can understand Gan Eden. Not all Jews have a capacity for such spiritual welfare. So Hashem gives people the reward that they can manage. That argument's thrown out. The Rebbes don't consider that, because they say, first of all, the Torah is for all Jews, not just the lowest common denominator. We have Jews who toil in Torah. You know what it means to toil in Torah? It means that that Jew sits there morning, noon, and night, fighting with sleep, fighting with his hunger, whatever it is, to learn more and more Torah. You know, there's a Meshulach here at the moment. Baruch Hashem, there are a few, so you won't know who I'm talking about. But one of them, he is so Bokian. He knows so much Gemara. He knows all the Gemara off by heart, the whole Shas. And not only does he know it off by heart, but he can comment on it and correct you on it. And my son-in-law, one of my sons-in-law, loves this guy, and he comes to him with a question. He knocks him out, because he first of all quotes the whole paragraph by Balpeh, and then gives him 3, 4, 5 commentaries on it, and answers his question. So there are people who toil in Torah all day. Now you're telling me that Jew doesn't deserve a full reward. He's only going to get the lowest common denominator, which are the toys. He doesn't want the toys. So what sort of a promise is this? And then there's another discussion. That we need to understand what reward means. What is it? When the Torah says, if you do this and that, if you keep my Torah and you learn my Torah and do my mitzvahs, I'm going to give you the following things. That is a clear statement of reward, right? So what does it mean? What does it mean reward and punishment? You know, there are plenty of places in Torah where it talks about Yireh Shamayim. Yireh Shamayim means fear of heaven. Fear. Let's talk about fear for a minute. We're talking about real, honest to goodness fear. Yireh, that doesn't mean you're joking. Yireh means fear. So what are you frightened of? Let's understand our view of God. Our view of God is Avinu Malkeinu, right? That He is our Father, that He's our Father and our King. But when the commentators discuss the relationship that every Jew should be pursuing with his God, it is of a loving Father. That's the relationship that we are enjoined to follow, to find. And if you want to know a successful pathway to happiness in life, which we'll talk about Betochen in a minute, but the first thing to understand is that you need to build a private one-to-one relationship with your God. It's got nothing to do with anybody else. It's got nothing to do with anybody watching how you daven or how you we have to put on the Shulchan Aruch adjudicates a Jew's behavior from the moment he opens his eyes to the moment he closes his eyes. The whole of his behavior is controlled by Allah. So I'll give you an example. Something apparently totally trivial, right? I don't know if you know. We have to put on our right shoe first before our left shoe. Did you know that?
No.
It's a matter of Shulchan Aruch. It's a matter of law. You have to put on the right shoe before the left shoe. Now, let me ask you a question. We're talking about building a relationship with our God. This is the God that creates heaven and earth, who runs the world, who brings the world into existence every moment, who controls everything. What does this God care whether you put your right shoe on first or your left shoe on first? Tell me, what? How can it matter to this God, right? What's the answer to that? It matters absolutely. Why? Because it's the relationship. It's the fact that we are mindful when every day when we put on our shoes that it's impossible, once you know this halakha and once you learn the habit, it's impossible to put your left shoe on first, right? And every time you put your right shoe on first, you think of your God. Huh?
Trust. Important thing, it's a trust. I trust.
It's a relationship. It's building a relationship. And you're right. No, it's a consciousness. Even when I'm putting on my shoes, I'm conscious of. So if a Jew's life is run, what this Sedra is opening with is to say to a Jew, if you live with me from morning till night, if you keep my statutes and you do my mitzvahs, then we're going to have a relationship. And if we have a relationship, now you're talking about a whole different set of perspectives and a whole set of... And let me give you a hint of where this is going. Let me... if I said to you, pain. Now, we're talking about reward. We'll be talking about reward and punishment in a moment. Everybody would agree that reward feels good and pain feels bad, right? So is pain bad? And the answer is, it's bad in the sense that it hurts. And bad pain hurts a lot. But can you say that bad pain is bad for you and necessarily makes you unhappy, for example? So the temptation is to say, yes, it does make you unhappy. What if I can prove to you it doesn't make you unhappy? Childbirth. A woman that gives birth to a child, right? One of the women in my family once said that it's like excreting a watermelon. That's how she described childbirth. She said, unimaginable pain. We're all guys. We don't know, right? We believe it. We've seen it. We've heard women screaming it. But the reality is that for a woman, it's a terribly painful, one of the most painful things. Now, can you tell me that made her unhappy? Did it make her unhappy? Didn't make her unhappy. When as soon as the baby's born, she's in heaven with happiness. So can you say that pain? So what's the difference? We'll come back to this in a minute, I hope. The difference is a matter of perspective, because she knows that the pain is in order that something wonderful is going to result. So she bears the pain quite differently than if if she was in prison and some sadist was beating her. That's a different perspective altogether. So I'm jumping ahead a bit, but the perspective that I'm trying to get you to see is that what this introduction to the Sedra is talking about is an instruction to you and me for our own benefit to understand that the best thing you can possibly do with your life is to build a one-to-one relationship with your God, so that you love your God and you are conscious of your God's love for you, like you're conscious of the parents' love for you. I'm talking about a normal functioning family. Sure, there are people who don't conform to that, but in a normal functioning family, a parent loves a child and a child loves a parent. And there is an enormous bond between them. So that if ever anything goes wrong, and let's say they have a fight, God forbid, and one doesn't want to talk to the other, you take all these fights, I'm telling you as a lawyer, usually about money or ego. So let's say there's a serious money fight, and they don't talk for a year, the father and the son, and the son gets run over, God forbid, and is in hospital. Does the father care about the money? He drops everything and runs to the hospital, sits by the bedside. He knows how. He says, "Still him," and cries and begs Hashem to heal his child. Why? Because they're an essence. It's essence to essence. It's a relationship which is built over the years and which is impervious to small things going wrong.
Unbreakable bond.
Unbreakable bond. Great explanation. It's an unbreakable bond. So you need, says the Torah to us, if you start building it, if you keep my this and you keep my that and I'm going to pay you back with that, is really code for saying, let's build this relationship. Spend your life building this relationship so that you are mindful of your God, as mindful as if you knew the halakha to put on your right shoe first, then your left, because that's your life. Your life is functioning in terms of your relationship with your God. It's impossible for somebody who understands this. For example, we have an obligation to put on tefillin every day. It's impossible not to put on tefillin every day for a Jew that's been putting on tefillin for long enough. You can't not put on tefillin. I forgot. It wouldn't. Who would forget? Can Rabbi Filman forget to put on tefillin? Can he forget? What are you talking about?
Put two.
Huh?
He put
Yeah,
two.
that's right. That's right. So what then is the reward? The reward. Let's go back a step. The reward sounds like it's toys, because really, if you have more money in the bank, that's very nice, but it doesn't compare to oil and mabah, it doesn't compare to heaven, it doesn't compare to Gan Eden. So why isn't God saying, if you live together with me, arm in arm, hugging each other through life, I'm going to give you Gan Eden? That's a better deal. Give me Gan Eden, maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's worth having to put my right shoe on first and not eat pork and not eat yogurt after a steak. I like yogurt and I like steak, so why can't I? And what does God care? Tell me, what does God care whether you and I eat yogurt after steak? How can he care? So the answer to that is not our business. Our business, somebody came to the Rebbe, some Jim on the video, came to the Rebbe and he says, he's obviously not Jewish, and the Rebbe is always very polite and very courteous, and especially with non-Jews who in the queue for dollars. And this guy says to the Rebbe this, he says, Rebbe, there are 8 billion souls on the planet, and maybe there's 12 million Jews. So why would God make the Jews the chosen people? That's his question to the Rebbe. Right? You know what the Rebbe answers? None of your business. We can think for none of my business. The Rebbe said, I don't know. It's none of my business. Can I do I think for God? I don't think for God. But if God tells me to do something, or if God tells you to do something, now it is your business. It's your business, and it's your business to do. So for you have to keep 7 mitzvahs, b'nai noach, and we, Am Yisrael, have to keep 613 mitzvahs. And the reward is the actual life you have. It's not that you're going to have more money or more this or more that. You're going to have more money if it's better for your growth. Some generations have the test of wealth. Some generations have the test of poverty. We live at the moment, be very clear about it, all the Rebbeim have said this. In the last 100 years, we are the generation of the test of wealth. Not everybody thinks that they'd be richer or happier if they had a third more income. What happens? You get a third more income, and over the weekend you adjust to it, and by Monday you want a third more income. But the reality is that this generation is a generation where nobody starves to death, nobody freezes to death. Whether you feel rich or not, and we'll come to that in a minute, I hope. The reality is that our tests in this generation are the tests of wealth. So that means tzedakah, it means sharing, it means structuring help for other people, all sorts of things. And what about punishment? What about punishment? Let's take our secular view of punishment. You get this Aboriginal who was arrested now for killing that 5-year-old child, or whatever child, 3-year-old child, and allegedly killing them, as the news keeps saying, allegedly. And let's say that they're stupid enough, like in New South Wales, not to have the death penalty. I don't want to go into everybody's opinion about the death penalty. You should know that anyway. Let's suppose that they don't have the death penalty in Northern Territory. I don't know whether they do or not. So that person will get jail, maybe 30 years, 40 years, 50, maybe he'll be out in 10 years. I don't know. The woke generation have gone crazy with this. But let's say he goes to jail.
Sure.
There's nothing intrinsically connected between the crime that he committed and the jail. Right? The jail is society's saying you did something unbelievably bad, and we want to hurt you by taking away your freedom. And that way we'll feel better that there's somehow one. But there's nothing intrinsically causing the result. Whereas when you have, let's take another example, that you come to the table and there's rotten food on the table. and you choose to eat that rotten food, and you become sick, you vomit and you become sick. There, can you say that's the punishment? It's a consequence. You've chosen to eat bad food. The consequence of that is that you get sick. There is an absolute connection between eating bad food and getting sick. There's no absolute connection between murdering somebody and jail. That's just something that we've socially decided is an appropriate thing that goes together. But there's nothing intrinsically, you murder somebody, you go to jail. That's just what we've decided. When Hashem punishes, in inverted commas, it's not to beat you up to get revenge. That's not how we learn. There's no learning like that in Jewish history, in any part of Torah whatsoever. When Hashem punishes a person, it is to give him the opportunity for growth. He has the opportunity to see that this has to be done differently, and he gets the opportunity to do it differently. And if he does do it differently, he gets rewarded. What does it mean he gets rewarded? That problem is removed from him. The problem, it can be a very good thing. If for example, the problem is you have an obligation to give tzedakah. You have the money to give the tzedakah, but you'd rather buy a new pair of shoes or whatever it is. So if you buy the new pair of shoes and you get corns or blisters from those new pair of shoes, and you say, God's punishing me with corns and blisters because of these, because I didn't give the tzedakah. Is that true? Probably is. But is it feel good? Yeah, it's feel good. So that you suddenly realize that those shoes and the lack of tzedakah go together, and now you have something to work with so that you can do tshuva, and when you've done tshuva, then you receive a reward. What's the reward? That you don't have the corns anymore. You lose the shoes. I'm making this up as I'm going along. What I'm trying to explain is that there are two pathways. There's the civil, ordinary pathway where people talk about punishment as being beating somebody up in revenge for what they've done to them. You've stolen from me, I'm going to beat you up. But that's not how Hashem punishes. Hashem punishes by, I'll give you an example that one of my teachers gave me. A guy goes overseas, and he goes overseas for the first time. He goes to Italy, to Venice. This was the example I was given. He goes to Venice, and he comes back after a beautiful few weeks holiday, and he's robbed. The house is robbed. They let themselves in the front door. They suddenly see everything in disarray. With a horror, they realize they've been robbed. So now he pacifies his wife, who's frightened, and he consoles himself. Why? He's got insurance. So whatever they took, so what? Everybody's healthy, nobody died, nobody got hurt. So he will just make an insurance claim. So he rings the broker, and he starts hearing what they're going to pay him for this insurance. And they have they discount everything because it's been so many years, and they discount it down. So he's going to lose massively, and he's paid all these premiums all these years because they're dishonest, he thinks. So he says, I know what I'll do. I'll add 25% to the value of everything. That 25% will equal the 25% they've taken off, and we'll be square. They won't be cheating me, and I'll be getting what I paid for, and everything's all right. And he does it. 2 years later, he goes overseas again. This time he goes to Paris. And he comes back home, and what's happened? He's been robbed again. And most people will tell you, just my luck. I went overseas twice in a row, and twice in a row I got robbed. Right? So now he goes, he's not stupid. He knows what to do. This time he doesn't ask any questions, puts up the thing 25%, puts in his claim, cleans up. Now, if this is a made-up scenario, but he goes overseas the third time. Now he's going to Indonesia, Singapore, and he comes back again, and he's been robbed again. So, now, maybe what's happening? Hashem is causing him a difficulty, right? But what is the difficulty? It's out of love, to teach him to be honest, not to lie, not to cheat, not to believe that he's got to. Who runs how much money he gets? Really, Hashem does. So does he really does God need his help to adjust the 25%? He doesn't need his help. But the longer he thinks he does, the more he needs to have the problem happen to him. So when God punishes us, we learn that punishment is in order that we get to be able to do tshuva and grow and learn and flower and keep Hashem's Torah when we weren't keeping it before. Now, it's not we're not being beaten up from not keeping his Torah because Hashem wants revenge from us, that he's angry with us. And it's a shame because the language that, especially, I don't want to say anything against any religion in particular, but I went to I didn't go to a Jewish school, I went to a Christian school, and this is what we heard all day, that you burn in hell in a barbecue, and it's painful, and it's terrible, and it's, and Hashem will get you, find you and whip you, and you can't escape him. He'll look under every tree and under every bush, and he'll find you, and when he finds you, he'll torture you and put you in the barbecue. That's hell. We don't believe in hell. We believe in what?
Life after death.
No, yeah, we believe in life after death, but when we believe in what they translate as purgatory, we believe that that's a washing machine. In Gehenna. Gehenna is a washing machine. It's not a barbecue. It's a place where our neshama goes to be cleaned.
Better one.
So
our life is cleaning process.
Now, what comes with keeping Hashem's Torah and doing his mitzvahs is that you have. No, sorry, I need to explain something else. We went through the fact that pain doesn't necessarily mean unhappiness. Look at a pregnant mother giving birth. Conversely, pleasure doesn't necessarily mean happiness. Just like pain doesn't necessarily mean sadness, pleasure doesn't necessarily mean happiness. People think it does. People chase pleasure, which is understandable because it feels good. But ask a heroin addict who, whether or not the pleasure brings him happiness. You can't deny that every time he injects the heroin, he gets pleasure. But if you ask him whether he's happy being a heroin addict, he's in jail, he's in prison. This is the whole concept of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of the escape from bondage for a Jew, is escaping that kind of jail, that kind of where you're voluntarily imprisoned. So pleasure and happiness don't go necessarily together, just like pain and sorrow don't necessarily go together. It's a matter of perspective. So what's one of the big secrets of this opening the wording of this opening Sedra is, where is your perspective? Let's do it one by one. Let's talk about the reward and punishment perspective. We've often done the moshel together of the Tzemach Tzedek. No, it was the Rebbe Rashab, of the guys climbing up the mountain. We've done this in the Shia many times, right? The fellow's imprisoned. He's been forced to carry stones up a mountain. It's a hot day, and he's falling over, and the stones are very heavy, and he's got a slave driver with a whip. And if he stops for a minute, he gets whipped, and he's hating this man, and he's hating his burden. And when he gets halfway up, the man stops to relieve himself, and he gets a chance to look in the bag. And he's told, by the way, that when he gets to the top of the mountain, the contents of the bag is his. Big deal. He hates the stone so much. He looks inside, and the bag is full of diamonds. Not the stones are diamonds. Now, what's happened? He's running up the mountain. And he said, put more in. I'll take more, heavier. And he's running up the mountain. And what's happened? The heat of the day is the same. The mountain is just as steep as it was before. The bag is just as heavy as it was before. What's changed? What's changed is his perspective. What part of his perspective is changed? It is his appreciation. If we use these words carefully, it's his appreciation of the value of the load. Correct? Before, he thought that the load was valueless, and so he resented carrying it. And now he thinks the load is priceless, and so he loves to carry it. Not only loves it, but he's running to have it. So, when we suffer, in inverted commas, it hurts. I'm not suggesting that it doesn't hurt, but we're going to finish on considering the very deep and important question: what is evil? Why is there evil? If there's a God, and he's all good, and he can do anything, and so how can he tolerate evil? No, what do you mean tolerate it? Can he make it? Because anything that exists, Hashem is bringing into being. So how can he bring evil into being? How can he torture people? How can there be tsunamis, holocausts? How is it possible that there's a children's cancer ward in the Prince of Wales Hospital? How can Hashem do that? And so, what is our response to this evil, this question of evil? And what is our response to this question of suffering? And the answer is, it's a matter of perspective. Now, does that mean does that mean that perspective should be fraudulent, and you tell yourself a fairy tale? You don't tell yourself a fairy tale, but you do say that I recognize that I don't understand God. It's none of my business, like the Rebbe said to this guy in the queue. Hashem runs the world in the way that he does, and I have to believe, I've built a relationship, which I've been building all my life with my God, one-to-one, that everything that he's doing is for the best. Ultimately, it's for good. I don't understand it at the moment. I don't understand why there's such suffering with this one or with that one. We get it. So you don't understand. Who says you've got to understand everything? I had a teacher, I'm sure I've used this mashal before, that you have a dog. You have a family dog, and everybody in the family loves the dog. And the dog loves everybody in the family. And the dog loves coming home because he knows he gets fed and he gets looked after, he gets patted and he gets kissed and hugged and he's happy as Larry. And he has the relationship with his owners. So, but he's a dog. So if you bring home, for example, your balance sheet from your business, and you sit down with the dog and say, let's spend some time together. Can we go over my balance sheet together? You'd be crazy, right? Why? Because he doesn't have the equipment to understand your balance sheet. If a dog doesn't have the equipment to understand a human being, can you imagine how much, and a human being is finite, and a dog is finite. Can you imagine the inability for a finite human brain to understand infinity, which is Hashem, which is God? Of course we can't understand. And we learn that there are various areas that we just simply can't understand. For example, Hashem's agenda is not our agenda. He doesn't have to explain his agenda to us. We don't have to know why the Roman Empire lasted so at that period of time, but then disintegrated. And we don't have to understand. There are many things we don't understand. For example, we see, the mashal is we see one page of a book, a 500-page book, that's our life. But we don't know what's behind this page, and we don't know what's in front of this page. So we don't know what happened to our neshama in previous Gilgulim, in previous incarnations, and we don't know what's going to happen to it in future incarnations. We don't understand. I can give you another example. You have a Rosha, a bad person, right? And he makes $300 million in a startup. And he's a bad person. He's just does everything bad. And you say to your God, well, how can he make $300 million and Rabbi so-and-so can't put food on his table, right? Do we know that in 3 generations' time, this bad man is going to have a great-grandson, and that great-grandson is going to have doubled or trebled the 300 million, and is going to use that to build a hospital, which will save thousands of lives? Do we know that? All we can do is we look at one page. We've got tunnel vision for. So you've got to forget that. You've got to understand that these rocks are really diamonds. We don't see it. So what? It becomes an issue of your betoken, an issue of your trust. And this is what we're talking about at the beginning of this year. It's a matter of depending on your loving Father who you're building a one-to-one private relationship with all your life. And sure, you make mistakes, so you slip, you fail, you do tshuva, and like a loving Father who's genuinely satisfied that you're sorry and you want to fix it, he picks you up and hugs you, gives you a cuddle, because he loves you. So that when we learn that if you walk in my ways, I will give you all of this, and you say, well, I know plenty of people who don't get all of this. Wrong. You don't know anyone who doesn't get all of this. Everybody that does keep Hashem's Torah and does his mitzvahs do get all of this, but not in a way that everybody understands. And, not everything should be understood. I'm going to tell you something. You don't want to know why Hashem allows evil. You don't want to know that. Because you're thinking with a human's head, and you don't understand. Let me. There's a medrash. I'm sure I've talked about this in the shir before. Maybe if I bring it with the girls. There's a fascinating medrash. everybody knows that Moshe Rabbeinu and the snare, the bush that was on fire, and the bush was not consumed. Right? This is all code. What's the bush? The bush is Am Yisrael. And what's the fire? It's the fact that we, Am Yisrael, our history is a river of blood. Right? That's the reality. But the snare is not consumed. It's not. It outlasts. The fire doesn't take it away. It doesn't. It endures the fire. So when Moshe Rabbeinu, there's a midrash that says that when Moshe Rabbeinu saw the snare and that it wasn't being consumed, he ran away. So the Torah asks, Midrash asks, why did he run away? And the answer is that God offered to him to see why Am Yisrael needed to be burned for 5,000 years, 3,500 years, until Mashiach came. And you know what Moshe Rabbeinu said? I don't want to see. And God says, why don't you want to see? And you know what he said? He said, you want me to fight evil. Right? If you want me to fight evil, don't ask me to understand it. If I have to hate evil, to fight evil, I have to hate it. If I have to hate it, then I don't want to understand it. You know who understood killing 1,500 children a day in Auschwitz? The Nazis. They understood it. Jews poisoned their water and they raped their women and they ate their children for Pesach and they believed all that, and so they slept. They killed their children all day and went home to their wives and families at night and slept like babies. You want to be a Nazi? We should be Nazis. We should understand pain and suffering and tolerate it. We don't tolerate it. But when it happens to yourself, it's a massively important change of perspective to understand that you're carrying stones which are really diamonds. You can't see why. Have betoken in your God, and it'll become easier for you. You'll see it differently. So when Hashem promises that if you keep my statutes and they have to be, the word BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI comes from the word hoik, which means an engraving. It doesn't mean just writing. Everybody understands the difference. You have a Sefer Torah, and you have the cloth, and you have the ink on top. So you've got the cloth is one thing, and the ink is the other thing. When you engrave on a tombstone, for example, the letter is actually made out of the stone. The stone and the letter are one. They're not two things that are put one on top of the other. They're one. So BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI means if you keep my statutes without understanding them, if it's engraved in your heart and your soul and your brain and your mind, you're going to have a different life. And what about the toys? The toys are this, that what you do get from Hashem is joy, real happiness. And real happiness gets expressed, it says that everything that's higher falls lower. So when we are really happy, when we're really joyous, you know what we do? We dance. Why do we dance? We're not dancing with our brain. Our brain is our smartest part. Or with our heart, with our emotions. We dance with our feet. The feet are our lowest point of existence as a human being. And the joy goes all the way to the feet. Then you know that the person is really joyful. Then when he's at the hasana of his child or his daughter or whatever it is, whoever's had the good luck to be there or good fortune to be there, you dance because you are so happy, and that happiness goes all the way to your toes.
Permeates you.
Huh?
Permeates you.
Right down to the lowest level. So when Hashem promises us toys, he's not promising us toys because the toys have a value. He's promising us that our joy will go to the deepest levels of Gashmias, because that's the proof that it's reaching the deepest levels.
Enjoy.
So this third Chumash ends with a very powerful set of requirements for a Jew at a personal level. He has to understand that what it's talking about is building a one-to-one relationship with his God. That's private. It's got nothing to do with anybody else. You're not showing off to anybody. You're not proving anything to anybody. You know, they're these very holy-looking guys who come in their kapotas and then this and that, and then they go and rob somebody. You know, the Gemara, I keep quoting this, the Gemara has in Sanhedrin tells about a Jewish Ganav. Jewish Ganav goes, and before he starts stealing, he prays to God for success. How can a Jew pray to God for success to be a Ganav? How? He can because he's a Jew, and therefore he prays to his God. He's a Ganav, so he will do tshuva, God willing. So we've all got to live by it. That's it.
I'm just going to share something with you quickly.
Yeah.